Good afternoon, everybody. Before we jump right into the presentation, there's going to be a few questions that are going to appear on your screen. You could each just take a minute to answer these, and we will begin shortly. Thanks. All right. Hello again, everybody. My name is Sue Brucey, and I handle the marketing here at 2W Technologies and will be your moderator today. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on planning for a successful Epicor upgrade. If at any time during today's presentation you have questions, please send them through the question box that appears on your screen. There'll be an interactive Q&A at the end, and we'll try to get to all of the questions then. For those of you who might not be familiar with 2W Technologies, we are a full-service Microsoft and Epicor certified partner, as well as a Tier 1 cloud service provider. We specialize in manufacturing solutions, but have clients from various other industries as well. For more information on our products and services, you can visit us at 2wtech.com. Today, we're going to be doing a joint presentation with one of our favorite clients, Aries Industries. The presenters for today are going to be Mark Jameson, who is our CEO and President at 2W, and Lizette, who is the IT Manager at Aries. So I am now going to turn the presentation over to Mark.
Hey, thanks, Sue. All right, so yeah, I'm here today at the 2W Tech Worldwide headquarters with Lizette Flores, who is who's been a client of ours for the last few years, and she had a relatively unique, successful upgrade experience over the last, well, I guess it was about 6 months ago when we finally went live. And so we wanted to share that with you today. So Lizette, say hi to the internet. And,
hi, everyone.
and and why don't you tell us just a little bit about Aries?
Sure. So we're a manufacturer of equipment for the underground infrastructure. So our customers are, sewer and water. We also sell things for the rehabilitation and data management side of that industry. We have cameras and tractors and liners, and all sorts of goodies if you need to do some pipeline inspection and rehabilitation. We're actually headquartered in Waukesha, so not too far from 2W's headquarters. But we do have 4 locations total. Both 2 of them are, east side, each side of the states, right? So one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. We've been in business since about '85, and we have about 125 employees across all of those 4 locations.
So when we started this project, right? So we looked at a couple of things, and you had some real challenges, but right now, so Aries, they have about 65 users, right? And 50 of those are pretty heavy users. You rely on Epicor for everything.
Everything.
From financials to scheduling to, I mean, the whole business goes through.
Yep, quote to cash and then some.
And so, and you went live on Epicor in
2011 on Epicor version 9.
Okay, and and then you joined Aries when?
January 2013, I started. Had no exposure to Epicor whatsoever, but they were already 2 years into it, and 2 years into issues. So at that point, they had already been talking about upgrading Epicor's version from 9 to 10. But our major issues were the slow, lagging speeds that we had, and lengthy processing time. Some of it was our fault for the reasons behind the processing times, but as some of you may know, using 9, I mean, it's just a slower system to begin with. So.
So you did that. So when we started to look at going from 9 to 10, right? What were some of the things we had to overcome?
Well, we had a lot of customization. So what they did when they went live with 9 in 2011 was they basically replicated their existing ERP system and did that in 9. So 9's great. It'll let you do anything you really want to do to it.
And that's the problem sometimes, is you can do anything you want to it, right?
Indeed. So, and in that part of replicating the previous ERP system to 9, it caused a lot of problems. So we had a lot of embedded things that were slowing processing times down. I mean, some of my users would, launch sales order entry, which is pretty quick, but have, go get a cup of coffee because it would take 10 minutes because of all the embedded dashboards and things like that. So, yeah, a lot of issues there.
So we ended up doing that, and then we couldn't, when we started to look at it, we couldn't do a re-implementation.
Correct.
Right? We had to convert that entire database.
Indeed. So, we had discussions with our management team, and I actually wanted to do re-implementation. I wanted to start fresh, right? We had a dog, and so we wanted to get a new puppy, right? But management wanted to do a conversion. They were really concerned about that historical data not being present in the new database, although we talked about doing those database connectivities and running dashboards and all those things. They just didn't want to hear that. So we opted to go with the conversion route.
So we ended up doing the trying to do a conversion. So then we had to come up with a scope. So we sat down with Aries and we made the decision for re-implementation. And then we started that whole process mapping, and we did a business process review to figure out what was there.
Yep.
Right? And what came from that?
Well, we did extensive business process reviews. We're kind of unique, so we have a service repair side to our business that maybe a lot of manufacturers don't have. Because of our customizations, so we had to have discussions related to that, and just our processes in general, right? So we were going to a new ERP version. We wanted to take a real good look at our processes, and are we doing things in Epicor as efficiently as they can be done, and just looking at things from that nature.
So so we got around that. So we started that early in 2016. And then in about October, we got our arms around it. We put together the scope. We put together the budget.
Yep.
Right, and then we kind of leaped off the diving board at the at the first of the year. Now, talk about what you did as far as putting together your scope internally for your folks.
Sure. So I worked extensively with Lisa. She's a great resource here. So together we came up with a project plan for Aries, Aries tasks as well as 2W's tasks. And then what I did is I took that project plan and then actually mapped out a Microsoft project plan for Aries, right? So I tried to do a full project plan with this project, which, as we'll see, was a success. And it worked out very well. So we had the major milestones and tasks associated with completing those major milestones, and that was permeated throughout the organization, throughout our power users, as we'll discuss at length as well. And we just had, the company on board.
So, so as you were outlining this, there were some critical pieces to this,
Yep.
right? So let's talk about some of this. So you created a kind of a power user group.
Indeed. So we had a power user from every department in our organization. So it's amounted to about 15 individuals outside of myself. And we met regularly on the project, our tasks, and just any issues that would come up. So that was integral to the success of this project. We also had our specific milestones based on our project plan that we had. So we were tracking towards those, the power users group were. So that was great. And then again, I had experience in project management from other employers going through actually a different ERP situation where we were going from one ERP system to a completely other one. So I took the successes from that and the failures and then used that to make sure that we didn't have those similar failures with this rollout, and then just gain momentum on those other successes.
And then a critical piece to this, and really any kind of major implementation, is getting the boss badge buy-in.
Indeed. So our CEO was very involved in this plan. He was a huge proponent for getting off of 9, going into 10. And he let his direct reports know that there are no excuses. We're going to go live. This is the date we're going to go live. We need to make this happen. And so that permeated down to the management team. And then it also permeated out through the organization. We talked about it at our quarterly meetings. This is what's happening. This is where we are. Everyone kind of knew what they had to do, and we did it.
Well, and then I mean, to that point, and then those guys reached out to me.
Yep.
And I went over there and sat down with them, and we all got on the same page. And then I was talking to Larry, one of your VPs, towards the end there, like every Friday afternoon, like clockwork. He and I were having a call. Okay, you think we're ready? Are you sure we're ready? So I mean, then that piece is, because really everything starts from the top down, right?
Exactly.
Folks won't do their jobs. They won't do that extra work they've got to do to get where you need to be without the executive.
And you need that management buy-in, right? So we opted to not hire any additional people to offload this work onto. So where's that work going to go? So we did extensive cross training. We talked about how are we going to handle overtime? Are we going to have overtime? How are we going to quote unquote compensate these individuals, these 15 individuals that are going to be involved in this process? So it needs to come from the top down.
Right. And then another piece of this is was our ability to kind of make stuff up on the fly.
Yes.
Right. I mean, because we were running into challenges, and then how are we going to overcome these challenges? And as we'll talk about in a little bit, we had quite a bit of creativity in the technical part of this to this process too, because you can't plan for everything.
You can't, right? And you need to have that technical creativity, that partnership that has that ability to do so. And so that was very, very important for our go live.
And you mentioned this earlier too, is I think the other piece of this is that hard, fast go live date, right?
Indeed.
This is the day we're going to go live.
Right.
This and we all managed to that kind of what we started to call it the brick wall we were all driving towards.
Absolutely. So again, our CEO, we decided what the go live day would be, but as soon as we did, I mean, that was the hard and fast date. So there were no excuses related to not meeting that date. So do what you need to do to get it done, but get it done.
And that go live date was the Tuesday following the Memorial Day weekend.
Correct.
That would give us a
3-day weekend to do the go live process. Again, we had initially thought we were going to do a re-implementation and thought that would be enough time. But as we found out, that conversion process was going to require a little bit more time than we had originally planned for. So,
and then as we started to look at this budgetary constraints, certainly there wasn't an unlimited pile of money there. We had migration issues due to just the size of your database and the speed of your internet connection, essentially. And then you were expecting everybody to hit the ground running on day one.
Right, correct. There was no option for a full down day on Tuesday.
And you weren't gonna, wade into it.
Right.
You were just gonna jump in.
Exactly.
You had a lot of forms though.
We did. We had a lot of forms, and we did do that. We did look through all of those during our business process reviews and things like that, but we still ended up with a large amount of reports that we needed to convert.
Right. And then the big challenge was your environment couldn't support the conversion process in the time frame that we had.
Indeed.
So essentially, we had a situation where we had a 6-day data conversion that we had to figure out how to do over Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
And that was, yeah, that was a challenge. So, so the budgetary constraints.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a budget amount of money.
Yep.
Right. How did you stay on time? How did you stay on budget?
So Lisa and I would have weekly calls related to the budget, related to the tasks. And so one of the things that, started this all was having that project plan. So Lisa and I worked extensively on this project plan, and she would give me her timings. And then, I'm always, I like buffers. So she gave me 3 days. I budgeted for 5, that sort of thing. But just having that project plan is very important, because I was budgeting off of that project plan. And then we would track it weekly. We would have weekly calls. How are we tracking? Are we going over in this certain area? Can we, take money from this area to cover these things? And so that's very important to have that communication.
So what was the end result of the budget?
We actually came in under budget. So that's really impressive.
Talk about executive buy-in. Right.
Right.
So, and then these migration speeds. Right.
Yeah.
So we had a huge database
Yes.
that we had to migrate.
Yes.
And how did we go about it?
So we started with a 55 gig progress database that in the conversion process blew up to about 100, 125 gig, if I recall.
That's about right.
Yeah. So it was a bit scary. So our first conversion, just to get us to conference room pilots, that took a long time. We had a lot of issues related to that. But we finally got it done. But we knew, conference room pilot was coming. We needed to prep and get ready for all of the testing that was related to that, all of the customization fixes and all of those things. And so while that's going on in the background, we were doing multiple conversion tests in a different environment to prepare for go live. What is the timing for go live and how is that going to look? So that was great that we were able to do that.
So then, how'd you get everybody on the same page to get them to go live on the same day?
So I sound very sweet, but I'm kind of a bulldog. Again, just having previous experience with ERP rollouts, I knew it was important to make sure that we were testing and training and doing all the things that we need to do to be ready for, Tuesday when we're supposed to hit the ground running. So I required our power users to do extensive testing of the system. We have what we call Epicor end user procedures, so EUPs for short. We had them in 9. I had them test all of those processes in 10. The 10 environment, we had a separate location for them to go to do this testing, so it wasn't sitting at their desk where they could take a call or get bothered. And again, that buy-in comes into play, right? So I had to have the managers allow them to do that. Yeah. But we had a separate environment for them to do that in. So they were doing their testing, updating their EUPs. And at the end, their job was to cross-train their departments, right? So we had a power user from every department, and then they had to train their departments. And we had sign-offs and everything. People signed off on what they were trained on, signed, dated, it's in their permanent, employee record and things like that. So, we took it very seriously.
No excuses.
Absolutely.
You're officially trained.
Absolutely.
So, and then the forms, because you had a ton of forms.
We had a ton of forms. So that was also some of the things that the power users did. So they went back to their departments and said, okay, what forms do you use daily, weekly, month end, quarterly, yearly? And so they did analysis of that. And then we brought that back to Steve on your team. And so we worked out a plan on how to get those converted to SSRS from Crystal as they were in 9. And we prioritized them, and he would come on site and he'd work on them. We allotted time in for that in the project plan as well. And it was done.
Yeah, we're great. And then finally, this whole thing where we had to fit 6 days of processing into 4 days.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about creativity from a technical standpoint. So,
indeed.
So this was a real challenge for us.
It was.
And we figured out. We actually tried to beef up your servers a little bit.
We did a
and
lot.
We couldn't get it done. And so we finally came up with the idea that we were going to create a supercomputer in Azure.
Yes.
To process the and then the problem was we couldn't get the database uploaded in time because that process was going to take a full day.
Right. We don't have the best bandwidth at Erie, so even trying to get it to the Azure cloud was taking a day because of the size of the database file. So your team just amazingly came up with this plan, and I got buy-in from management to go along with it because they saw the benefits of it. And again, we had a hard, fast date, and so we only had this window to work within, and it turned out beautifully.
So in essence, what we did was, so you stopped on Thursday night.
Correct. So originally we only had the 3-day weekend, and when we started looking at, okay, this is conversion time is taking 4 days, I need this extra day. So management agreed to that. But we took that extra day, that Friday, for the conversion process to get it to the Azure cloud and that sort of thing. So Thursday night, everyone stopped production. We took Friday as a cleanup day, a 5S day, whatnot,
So we started packing the database, right, shortly thereafter, right? And then we put it on a NAS drive.
Yep.
And you handed it to Dave.
Yep.
Who drove it over to the office here where we had fiber. We uploaded that database to the Azure cloud, and then we started the conversion process. And that took 20 hours.
Yep. 20 hours.
So, and we were getting updates virtually like every 4 or 5 hours that said, okay, we haven't failed yet. We're still going forward. We got that done, downloaded it back down here from the office, ran it back over to Aries, put it back into your brand new E10 system. And then what happened?
Well, then we had to work on everything, right? So we brought the database live, and then we had to do everything we had to do. So we had to point all these SSRS reports that we created, point them to the live environment, reapply all the customizations that we had cleaned up, all of those, extended UD fields that we needed to add, and then any other changes that we needed to make as part of those business process reviews. So we did actually change how we do our service repair departments. We got out of a separate plant and actually migrated it back into our main plant. So we're just making those kinds of changes, and that's what we did for the rest of the weekend.
For Sunday, and then Monday was cleanup, and then Tuesday came, and
it was amazing.
It was a non-event.
Non-event. It was amazing. We had no issues, no systematic issues. We did forget a couple reports, but as we had planned, we had the project coordinator on site, Zach, and then we had Steve, who was taking care of our SSRS reports, and we had a financial guy on site because we decided to go live month end. So, so of course we were concerned about glitches there. So, but we did have 2W resources on site for the remainder of that week in case we came into any major bumps. And aside from us forgetting a couple reports, nothing. Nothing.
The amazing thing was there was literally no noise.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everyone, it was business as usual. Everyone, including myself, was completely shocked. But yeah, it was great.
So, so the takeaways from this, right? So, as what the thing is it's all about the project plan.
Indeed. You can't plan for everything, and I completely understand that. And we had a lot of black holes we didn't really know about. But a good plan is the best way to go. What you can get down on paper, what you can plan for is the best route to go. And we had to do a lot of changes. I mean, we didn't expect a 6-day conversion process, but you plan for what you can, and you follow the plan as best you can.
And then having those, part of that plan is the milestones.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, they need to be realistic, right? We're not going to do a major conversion in 2 months, right? But having those milestones is important because you're tracking to something, and then you have those major milestones, and you can do all of the action items underneath and associated with that. So it's very important. And
then the executive support, absolutely critical to this.
Critical.
I mean, really, it's because, as you said, getting the permission from the managers to take people off their full-time jobs,
right? Absolutely,
to spend it on their hobbies of rolling out the new ERP system. absolutely the accountability,
Definitely.
holding everyone accountable, right?
Definitely.
Just spend a little bit of time talking about that, how
Sure.
you did that.
Well, like I said, everyone knew that this was coming. There was no surprises that this was coming, and we went all the way down to the production floor. That their main focus is clocking in and out of MES, so they're not even extensive Epicor users. But everyone knew this was coming. Everyone knew who the power users were and what their tasks were going to be, and the power users were very aware of what they were required to do. There were no secrets. There were no one was keeping information away from anyone, and just myself making sure that other people are doing the things they need to do. And if there was any barriers or roadblocks, because it happens, it's a business, right? We still have to make money through this project. So, if users were getting called to do their real jobs when they should have been doing the project, how do you manage that? How do you mitigate those risks? But yeah, everyone was really accountable. Everyone was on board, and they knew that it's going to be painful, but at the end, it's going to better us, right? It's going to make our ERP system better. We've done extensive, looking at our processes. Our processes are going to be better. We're going to gain efficiencies. And hey, it's not going to take 10 minutes to load sales order entry. That alone
was worth,
right.
was worth the pain and suffering. And then, part of that accountability was 2W's accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, working with, using us as the extension of what you folks were trying to do, as well as having us be the subject matter experts. I think that in this process, we were all really lockstep in what we were trying to accomplish here.
Absolutely. I can't stress that enough of having a good partner. So, in this case, management and the organization is looking to me to have all the answers, and I'm no genius. So, I'm looking for that support from 2W Tech. They're my main resource. So, just having that good partnership. And I can't tell you guys how often I would have like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, oh shit moments. And I'd call people and they would actually answer and talk me off the ledge and, and assistance support. So, having that partnership, I can't stress that.
So we missed out the emotional support part of the process. Is that the bullet point the bullet point we left off?
Indeed.
So Sue, that's what we have for you guys today. Sue, you want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. That was great. As a reminder for you guys, if you haven't submitted your questions yet, you can still do so. Just use the questions function that should be on your screen. Guys, I think the presentation may have been the easiest part because we have a boatload of questions. So here we go. First question, how big was the Epicor 9 database that you were working with?
It was like 50 or 55 gigs, so it was fairly large. One of the things we realized was that we were logging everything, so every single field and every single table we were logging. So our change logs were huge, and we did as soon as we realized that we turned that off. But that was a big amount of that 55 gig database.
Okay, next question. When did you have the E10 training environment ready?
Pretty much right away. So once we decided, obviously, that we needed a new server and new equipment and all that jazz. So once we ordered that, which we did get from 2W, we got the training environment, ready to go. But pretty much as soon as we could, we tried to do our first pass conversion, so that we could have our data in the pilot environment so that we could start working with it.
Our first pass was actually December, wasn't it? So you had it relatively early in the process.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, we did.
All right. Was your existing database Progress or SQL?
It was Progress. It was Progress.
How many Progress procedures were converted?
Say that one more time.
How many Progress procedures were converted?
I guess I don't know what Progress procedures are. So, we took our entire database and converted it, right? Some things we had to recreate in 10 just because of the Progress to SQL conversion process, but everything that was in the database came over.
And we did have to clean up the database a little bit, like the change logs. We had to take those out of there, and there was some I mean, there were some of the customizations that no one
Right.
knew what
Yeah.
they were for.
We had unknown customizations, unknown BPMs. They were just firing and triggering, and we had no idea what they were. So we didn't touch on this on the presentation, but it was on the slides. So the IT department that was there when they went live was not there when we started this process. So we didn't have any of that historical knowledge or data. And unfortunately, they didn't keep a good change log either, which I have changed since then. So we didn't know what some of these things were. And we did our first pass knowing that, hey, we're going to run into some glitches because we just don't know what everything is. But, we accounted for that.
So we got this question a couple times, and it was worded a little different this time. It was about how many progress BPMs do you have? So I don't know if that clarifies what they were asking.
Progress BPMs. Yeah. So again, we had, I think we
There
had
were a bunch.
Yeah, I think we had at least 50, and some of them had to be, we did our first pass conversion, so we had to clean those up once we got to 10. So that was also part of that process. So we had to do all that cleanup, and then when we went live after the conversion, then we had to update all of those, BPMs, and some BAQs had to be updated because again of the mechanism that they were using to do the code basically. And then all of the repointing of reports and stuff like that. But I think we had like 50 BPMs, and I would say probably 20 of them we had no idea what they were doing. We just had no idea what they were doing.
Okay, how many simultaneous users do you have, and what did you see for speed improvements as you moved to 10?
So we are licensed for 65. I would say we're heavy hitting about 50 every day. In and out. So about 50. Logging in alone, we gained minutes because logging in alone was painful for us, right? So we had that problem. But for instance, for the sales order entry screen, because of that embedded dashboard, which we did end up keeping, we didn't get rid of it. We did some tweaks to it, but we ended up keeping it in sales order entry. We went from a 10-minute load to about a 40-second load. They did some tweaks on the dashboard to make it more efficient, but it was pretty much the same dashboard it was in 9, but just the back end side made everything so much faster. And like I said, we did get a new server, and we beefed that sucker up. We wanted to give it room to grow, and we did Hyper-V and planned for that process as well. So it is a virtualized server.
Okay. How many UI customizations do you have?
When I look at the customizations page, I think we have about 25 of the forms that are customized, and then within those 25, there's fields and things like that are added. But we've pretty much touched every major form of the system. So sales order entry, part entry. We even have stuff in employee entry because of birthday cards and stuff like that. So we've got simple things and we've got large things, but I would say probably 20 to 25 customizations. And then obviously there's multiple customizations in each one.
Okay, how does SSRS compare to Crystal?
So we have a separate employee that does all of our reporting. So I wasn't a big reporting person going into this. I found Crystal to be a bit cumbersome when I did try to learn. It's a beast. It does a lot. And if you're really good at it, great, but I wasn't. So going to SSRS was actually a little more user-friendly for me. I found it was very GUI based, and so I could do a lot of tweaks on my own and not necessarily need to call TW to do some things. And that user that does the reporting for us now, she picked it up fairly quickly as well. She already had experience in Crystal, and she actually did find some things a little bit easier in SSRS. But I mean, to the end user, it looks the same, right? I mean, we did a lot of just making it look the same in SSRS as it was in Crystal. So for them, it was fine. Loading up some reports, again, the back end is faster. You got a new reporting engine that ties into that back end, that SQL back end. So some reports that would take a couple of minutes to load, finish in a couple seconds now too. So we gained a lot of time. If I can say anything, we gained a lot of time doing the conversion.
Okay. Do you use Service Connect?
We don't. We don't. We have looked at that, but we don't.
Okay, next question. Did you have any third-party software interfacing with Epicor 9? And if so, how did that part of the transition go?
Oh, yeah. So I forgot about that. We did a lot of testing on that too. So, Manifest used to be an Insight product, and then Epicor bought them out. But we do have Manifest. We also have Avalara Tax, because who wants to manage that, right? So again, we planned for it. So in our project plan, we planned time for that testing. We worked with those third-party vendors to plan that time, right? So for Avalara Tax, we had to get their sandbox to do that testing with our testing environments. And then with Manifest, we had to work with them directly to get that all set up on the new server and do those testings before go live. So yeah, we did do that. We had to, right?
Okay. Was there a time during this project when 2W and Aries didn't see eye to eye on something?
Absolutely.
Never happened.
Absolutely. I mean, any good partner is going to challenge you, right? So initially, like 2W, we went in thinking we were going to do a re-implementation, start over fresh, and we got a lot of management pushback on that, and they were very adamant about doing a conversion.
I remember that meeting.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun meeting at all. I was sweating a little, guys. And at the end, 2W conceded, but they did let us know, hey, these are the issues that you're most likely going to come across in this conversion. We could mitigate some of that because we know some things, and we don't. There's a lot of unknowns, so you need to be prepared for that. You need to be flexible with that. But we're in it with you, right? That's that partnership that's important to have. They were in it with us, good, bad, or ugly. They were in it with us, and they gave us, the good, bad, and ugly of choosing a conversion over a re-implementation.
Okay, looks like we maybe just have one more question here, assuming I didn't miss any, hopefully. How did you hold everybody accountable for learning the new system?
So like I said, we had our power users, and so it was a train the trainer situation, right? So they were very much involved in those business process reviews. As soon as we could get access to the environment, they were given access to the environment. And then we had those very specific time frames where they were in the system, going through our Epicor end user procedures, intent, comparing the differences, marking any issues, and it was a loop back. So they would find issues, give them to me, I'd give them to 2W, we'd address them, we'd implement those fixes in the test environment or pilot environment. They'd come back the next week and then test those processes again. So it was like 4 weeks of, I know it sucks, but you're going to go through all your EUPs every single week just to make sure that we're doing the things we need to do. And we had them in a separate environment. So they would come up to the IT office. We set up 3 test stations so we could have 3 people there simultaneously testing their processes via, 10 and the EUPs and continuous feedback. And I had them sign off on their test scripts. I had them turn those in, because that's what I used to manage the issues so that I could coordinate with 2W to make those fixes and then turn them around and have them test again next week. So it was very timely. It was a very intense time frame. I will not deny that by any means. So it was literally like 1 week's 2W's on site. The next week we're hustling because the next week 2W is going to be on site with this project plan. So we didn't have time to play. And we didn't have time for anyone to not be on the bus, So.
And you had to have difficult conversations and crack the whip.
Absolutely. Some of my users are still afraid of me. But indeed, right? You have to hold people accountable, along with being accountable.
One of the audience members was asking specifically about Epicor University, or if you used Epicor Embedded Education at all for training.
We didn't. Apparently they had purchased it when they went to 9 and just didn't renew it after that. And I kind of found out about it later in the process, and we had already mapped our budget, so we didn't have money for that. But having that environment, that pilot environment with our data was probably more beneficial than having, you know, this generic Epicor data to test with, because it wouldn't have our customizations, it wouldn't have those rogue BPMs, it wouldn't have, you know, those BAQs that we run on a regular basis. So we found it more beneficial to actually have our data to test with our processes.
Okay, and one last question just came in. Do you have CRM in your Epicor 10?
We do. We have the embedded CRM module, and we do use that in our sales and customer service area. We didn't see any issues with that. You know, we tested all the customizations we have done to CRM, but we didn't have any issues with that in the conversion.
Okay, great. I think that was all of the questions I got submitted. So if I missed any of your questions, I apologize. Please just drop me a quick email, and I'll make sure we get you an answer to whatever question you might have. That's everything for today. Again, if you want any follow-up information, just drop us a line or give us a call. Be on the lookout for details for our next webinar that'll be coming out shortly. Thank you, Lizette and Mark. Thank you for everyone for joining us today, and have a good day.